when you decide to come to one of the enormous state universities in the US, they'll help you find housing. And there are housing opportunities on campus. But most, at least half of the students live in the town. So most of the town is rental housing and rental apartments and rental hotels. And, so in addition to the housing on campus in the residence halls, there's also, you can rent an apartment in town. And you have to, if you do that, you have to find your own furniture because the apartments are not furnished. When I got married while I was in graduate school at Indiana University, we moved out of student housing and found a studio apartment that somebody had set up in the basement of their house. We had a car, so this was way off campus, way out in the suburbs of Bloomington. And we lived there for a year and a half. It was really tight. We got basic furniture. We had a fold-out sofa that became a bed, and which we folded up every morning because that was the space that we had. The kitchen was a hot plate on a counter and a little bitty sink. And it was very tight, but it was cheap. And we didn't have a lot of money. We were both teaching assistants, which means that we were taking like 3/4 time class and teaching 3/4 time with the department where we were majoring. We didn't have time to do anything else. And for teaching as a teaching assistants or teaching associates, we got a small compensation and free tuition. So the two of us together were able to live in this small basement room, and we were okay. It wasn't great. It was tight, but we did it because, it gave us a place. You do crazy things when you're a student. I mean, when I was a student in France, my income never lasted for the whole month. So the last 3 days of the month, I ate Prise Unique cookies, nothing else. So,
I had the same experience. I was living in a Murphy bed apartment. It was a hotel that was converted into a living space for people downtown Chicago. I lived in the city, and I went to University of Illinois Chicago for 2 years to get my master's degree. And one of those years, I lived in this small apartment that was barely big enough to have a bed fold out, and then you put it up at the end of the day, and a tiny little space for walk-in closet and bathroom, and that's it. And I lived with another girl, so I remember that fondly.
That was basically it. Yes. Yep. So the on-campus housing that we had the first year when we met was palatial compared to what we found in town. But of course, we couldn't live together in the university housing, although there is plenty of housing for families also on campus. And at that time, it was World War II military apartments that they had repurposed for students, but they didn't have enough for all the students. So a lot of us lived off campus. you know, and you have to really, when you decide that you are coming to a graduate school in the US, you have to plan for a long time ahead. And the university will help you, but it's complex, you know. And the other thing, of course, is where would you eat? So when we were in the apartment, we had our main meal as paying customers in the meal hall in Central Campus. And then for breakfast and a light snack in the evening, we just went grocery shopping. We didn't do a lot of cooking because there wasn't room or facilities to do any major cooking. But, you know, we could microwave something. So, you know, it was an interesting aspect of moving to Bloomington, starting classes and getting set up so that we had a place to live and a place to eat. So you can purchase meal plans from the university. And that was basically what we did for some of our meals. And like I say, there are staff people in the university administration who help new students, and especially they have people to help international students. So you end up figuring it all out with help. But freshmen too, they insist usually that first-year students, undergraduate, stay in campus housing so you get used to and you know places and you can get around. It's huger now. It's for undergraduate students, it's what's called a party school, which is an American expression that means that undergraduates don't necessarily take their studies really seriously. A lot of them do, but many don't. And so there's a lot of partying. And on American university campuses, partying means alcohol, getting drunk, doing drugs, and flunking out of school, basically. So this is a university where if you're one of the younger students, that's a risk. And you need to be serious about studies if you're going to get through. Weekends can be pretty loud because people are out in the streets drinking. Students, younger students mostly. And the graduate students, of course, are really serious about their studies because it's costing them, and that's why they're there. So you will, if you go there as a graduate student, you will make serious friends, lifelong friends, because you live together. So they have everything. They have law school, they have dental school, they have medical school, they have all kinds of technologies, sciences, culture, languages, all kinds of languages. It's, it's a really, when we looked at it a couple of weeks ago, they have 3,400 possible things you can study. 3,400 choices on campus. So you kind of have to know what you want, because if you don't, finding anything becomes, as we say in English, looking for a needle in a haystack, looking for something virtually impossible to find. looking for a needle in a haystack. And a haystack is just a big pile of hay for cows to eat, you know, where they put it before they shovel it to the cows. So can you imagine looking for a needle in a haystack? And of course, the haystack is full of long, skinny pieces of grass. Makes it very hard. Other really, really big American flagship state universities include University of Michigan, University of Illinois, Michigan is spelled this way. Let's see, University of Texas, University of Arizona. You can see it's just the big university of the state. Where I live now, the big one is University of North Carolina, University of Virginia is another big public university. And the biggest states like New York and California and Florida don't have one central big campus. They have State University of New York at Binghamton, at Rochester, at 6 different cities, or University of California at Berkeley, in Los Angeles, in big cities. So they're all University of California, and what is in some of these other states, the big central campus has several big campuses all over the state. So I don't know how many students there are at University of California, all the campuses. We can look it up. University, like I said, Indiana University, all campuses. There's over 100,000 students every year. So that's a pretty big town. And, obviously, if you are attending a very big state university or other huge university, your social unit is not the university. Your social unit is your department, the Department of Romance Languages, or the Department of English, or the Department of History, or the Department of Linguistics, or the Department of Nuclear Science, or the Department of, there's hundreds of departments at these big universities. And that's where those are the people you get to know. Those people become your friends, and the professors and the students. So, the unit that you relate to and that you're known in is smaller than the university. Does anyone have any questions on this subject?
My question is that do the universities give permission for students to work part-time in the outside or not?
Okay, so if you are in the US on a student visa, the government doesn't give you permission to work outside. So really, the important thing is to find a scholarship that
Nice.
supports you, that gives you enough money to live as a full-time student. And in the US, that goes university by university. It doesn't come from the government, and it doesn't come from any central place. One thing that the world is seeing now about the United States is that, yes, it's an enormous country, but a lot of the governing power is not with the United States government. It's with the 50 states. There are 50 state governments that determine what goes on in the states. And in many ways, in taxation, in policies, in even with things as important as what you're allowed to do or not do, that's a state decision. So if you move from one state to another, there will be differences in being registered, in having an ID. It all depends on the state. So this is true with the universities too, that education is not national. It is state by state. So looking for a scholarship in the US is challenging. It is kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. And the haystack is composed of thousands of independent, state-based, or just independent universities, each of them with their own financial aid, their own scholarships, their own programs. It's a vast haystack. If you want to work under a national government program, I'd suggest looking at Canada. Canada is very proactive, very welcoming of international students. And Canada offers a lot of scholarship aid for international students. They're much more welcoming than the US. All you have to look up is financial aid, international students, Canada. And you'll see that there is a program, and every year there is one application date and one application form, and you can be assigned or ask for different universities in different parts of Canada. But it's basically a centralized government program in Canada. It's a little easier to become an international student in Canada, but of course, there are many more universities in the United States, and they all want international students. So there are a lot of opportunities in the US, but you have to be willing to go sit in a haystack and on your computer and look for whatever works for you.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Okay. Any other questions? And if somebody is able to tell me, I really want to study this, and I want to go to the United States, I can work with you to help you narrow down and find possibilities. But you have to give me something other than I want to go to the US. That's not specific enough. So if you really, something you really want to do, then let me know and I'll work with you on it and help you narrow down the choices.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm asking in some question about your country because you are native speaker, right, from UK?
From the
Yeah,
UK, no, I'm in the US.
in the US.
Yes, not the UK.
Okay, I'm sorry for that.
Not a
And you
problem.
are okay. You are teacher.
Yeah, I'm a retired teacher. I
Oh,
was a university teacher. That was my career. And I taught in Missouri, and I taught in one of the 2-year post-secondary colleges most of the time. I did teach in California a little bit at University of California, and I taught also in California at a Catholic sponsored undergraduate college. So,
okay.
I'm familiar with the US education, but I'm not right now at a university where, I'm part of the staff.
Okay, I understand. Same like my country here. Okay, I understand you. You are retired from your university.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. For example, like other country, like my country, if they come your country for study, so first they have to take IELTS course.
Yeah. First, well, you have to look at what are the requirements. What do you need to be able to do? So if you want to do graduate study any place, you need to have a bachelor's degree in something. You can go to the US for undergraduate study, but they won't admit you to graduate study without the bachelor's, the undergraduate. And you'd also need, for most universities, to get a really good score on, most of them want the TOEFL. So your English skill, you need to be able to give them a good test score, over 100 on the TOEFL. And the closer to 125, the better. And that comes, once you've learned the basics of English, that comes from practicing. It comes from reading. It comes from speaking. It comes from being in conversations. It comes from, looking at movies and TV programs and using English every day to practice. So what we're
Okay,
doing on Live in Peace now is to help people get past where you get from studying in school to where you get from being part of a group. Participating in something like this is really good for your overall English flexibility. Other questions?
okay, I got you. Here in my country, and nobody speak English. You have to speak a national language, so it is quite
Yeah.
difficult. First,
Well,
we have to
and that's why we
improve.
offer things several times a week, and we talk in English. And, so your brain gets used to it.